Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Enjoy your time by subscribe and like. Today's story is called Stoneflower Petite. Mr. Morris lives on the outskirts of Wayford, near Cobblestone Hill. At the end of a narrow path in the Bamboo Grove Alley stands an old English-style residence. The bamboo forest is dim. The sound of bamboo leaves brushing the ground feels like whispers, sending chills down your spine. I crouched and jogged, as if to hide the bundle I was holding. The old house is surrounded by high walls. The hidden structure inside inspires fear. The door plate says Morris. A lantern hangs beside it with eerie carvings, a centipede in a circular pattern, making people feel uncomfortable. Everything here is just as I've heard. I passed through the courtyard gate, following the path to the house door. "Excuse me, is Mr. Morris at home?" A heavy, dry voice replied to me. "In the yard." Just as I was puzzled. "Come into the yard." I followed the instruction into the yard. A sliding door opened, revealing an elderly man in a long coat. His hair was gray, hanging in front of his face. He might be even older than he appeared. The collar of his coat revealed a bony chest. He was as thin as a skeleton, looking quite pitiable. Perhaps he was suffering from an illness. "The sun is so glaring. I can't do anything," he said with disgust. His glaring eyes also made me uneasy. His eyes were piercing and seemed bluish purple. Was it my imagination? "Are you Mr. Morris?" Who else could I be? This is my home. Unfortunately, I am unmarried and rarely receive female visitors like you. What do you want? I would like to ask for your help. Show me first. I can show you first. But after that, you have to listen to what I say. I spread the bundle in front of me on the porch. Mr. Morris glanced at the contents and immediately squirmed away from the sunlight, curiously edging forward along the shadow's edge. "Is this yours?" "No, it's an heirloom from my great-grandmother. I inherited it from my grandmother. I heard she originally used it on stage. It's a cloak as red as blood, soft as feathers. Its texture feels as comfortable as skin. This is marvelous. A truly magnificent piece. You should wrap it up well, to make it look like a dream." "A dream? Ah, that's my business. Tell me, how much do you want?" "Whatever you ask, I'll pay." I clutched the cloak tightly to my chest, as if to shield it from Mr. Morris's reaching hand. No, I don't want money." "Then why are you here?" I resisted the urge to flee. "Please honor your promise and let me finish speaking." He once said, "Never let Morris take control of the conversation. Keep it in your hands." Morris glared at me with fierce eyes, but eventually relented, sitting back down. "Fine, speak. Let's hear your story." "Humph. Ah, by the way, I haven't asked yet. What's your name?" Just as he said it would be. "Remember well, never tell him your name. Don't even try to deceive him with a fake name." "I don't want to say." He smiled with a face full of wrinkles. "All right, it doesn't matter. Go on." "After the war, my grandmother was a singer in New York. In her final days, she would sit upright in bed waiting for me to come home. The screen leading to the balcony had been removed, so she could see the lush garden directly. Maybe my father arranged it so that my bedridden grandmother could still see the trees she loved in the yard. I ignored my father's urging to sit down until my grandmother signaled that she wanted only me to stay. Everyone understood that once grandmother made up her mind, no one could persuade her otherwise, so they all left. My grandmother's pale face clearly showed signs of death. Sitting up so straight, it must have been hard for her. "Charlie," I have 5 lovely grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren that I don't care much about. But only you, like me, have entered the world of art. When you said you wanted to be an actor, my heart danced with joy. Grandma, please lie down. I never told you that my mother, your great-grandmother, was also an actress. I seem to have never heard of her. Of course you haven't. I've kept it a secret all along. Things like this shouldn't be entrusted to just anyone. A gentle smile flashed in grandmother's eyes. Charlie, bring me the bundle from the cabinet beneath the display shelf. It's a large bundle meant to be held to the chest, but it's much lighter and softer than it looks. Much softer, too. This was passed down to me from my mother. Before she passed, she told me it was a gift from a former lover, but she never managed to return it. That's all she said. Nothing more. Can I open it to take a look? Of course you can. As I untied the bundle, my heart raced. Unfold it carefully and handle it with care. It's much older than it looks. It was a deep red cloak, evoking the image of aged wine. It seemed like a cloak used on stage. Charlie, my granddaughter, I hope you can find the owner of this cloak. I've searched everywhere, but couldn't trace his whereabouts. Perhaps he still has descendants alive. Grandmother's face grew paler, yet she kept breathing deeply, struggling to find the words. All right, I promise to return it. Can you swear on that? If you're lying to me on my deathbed, I'll never forgive you. I'll keep my promise. Rest assured. Grandmother closed her eyes, digesting my words slowly, and then showed a relieved expression. Now I am at peace. I'm a bit tired. Let me sleep for a while. I helped her lie down in bed, and soon she was breathing peacefully. Back in the living room, my father and relatives asked what my grandmother had said. I evaded with a casual lie. At dawn the next day, my grandmother passed away. I was the last person to speak with her. After the funeral, I didn't wait for the mourning period to end. I immediately began researching the theater records from that time. Since it was before the war, I knew very few details, but I found an article in an old newspaper about a famous singer who died at a local theater. Her image inexplicably appeared in my mind, and I began to investigate her further. I found another actress who had once performed with her. She was my great-grandmother. There were numerous reports about the incident. After reviewing several newspapers, I finally found a photo of her in life. Then I discovered the answer. In that photo, I confirmed the cloak draped over her smiling shoulders was the same cloak. But despite my continued efforts, I couldn't uncover any more clues. My grandmother must have exhausted all her connections and done everything possible to investigate. Now, any further efforts on my part would certainly yield nothing more. Months passed like this. I heard from a theater member about something strange, a peculiar antique shop that sold items rumored to be cursed. Out of curiosity, I asked around and found the location of the shop. It was in the same place where my great-grandmother had passed. In that theater, clinging to one last hope, I asked for the name of the antique shop. I only heard bits and pieces of rumors. I think it was called Nightwalk Hall. The Nightwalk Hall antique shop in Wayford was hard to find. On my days off, I took the train and spent the whole day searching, but to no avail. Sometimes I met people who had heard of it, but no one knew the exact location. Everyone only knew vaguely, but no specifics. It's almost been a year since my grandmother passed. It was the first day of the new year. I wandered the streets in the scorching heat. Everywhere, families were preparing to light the spirits' fires. As I walked, I thought, I must return home before my grandmother's first anniversary. I need to hurry back. When I looked up, at the end of a dark alley, there appeared an old house. I thought, what if? And ran towards it. The shop was much more sinister than I'd imagined. A lantern hung under the eaves, emitting a pale light, almost making me turn back in fear. On the frosted glass by the door, the words Nightwalk Hall were pasted, but it was hard to make out. Inside, only a faint light shone through. I clutched the bundle to my chest, reached out, and pushed the door. It opened without resistance, as if inviting me inside. The shop was dimly lit. There was only a bare light bulb on the ceiling. Various items were displayed on the shelves, none of them labeled. Not a single one made me want to touch it. Suddenly, a sweet fragrance wafted into my nose. At the counter in the back of the shop sat a woman, with a pipe in her mouth, purple smoke curling from it. "Welcome." The moment I heard her voice, I felt a shiver run through me. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. The woman glanced at me curiously, then waved her hand in front of her face, muttering something like, "Damn it." Then, the fear suddenly faded away. I felt nothing at all. "Sorry to have scared you. We don't get many young people here these days." So I let my guard down. "You're not afraid anymore, are you? So what brings you here? You don't look like you're here to shop." I have something I'd like you to take a look at." "Are you here to sell it?" "No." I asked if I could use the counter, then spread out the bundle. "I want to return this cloak to its owner, or to his family or descendants, or even to his grave. Ma'am, could you help me examine this item?" When I finished speaking, she chuckled softly, as if what I said was amusing. "I understand. In that case, I'm sorry. I can't help you. Apart from his deceased owner, it will not recognize anyone else as its owner, so I can't keep it here. But I know someone who might help. It could be a bit risky, but they should be able to assist." "Who is it? Could you introduce me?" "His name is Morris. He lives on a hill outside Wayford. Go through a bamboo grove and you'll find him. He's quite eccentric, but very responsible. I should warn you, he's a bad man. Once it's done, leave immediately." Then he explained the process to me. "All right, that's it. This is a unique situation, but I won't make things worse. Oh, just in case, take this." He pulled out stationery and a pen from the shelf and quickly wrote a letter. Then he sealed it in an envelope and stamped it. "There's a curse on it. Don't open it." "Understood. After you tell your story, give this letter to him, then you can continue on your way. Thank you very much. You've been a great help." "It's no problem. After all, he was amazing on stage. I suppose it's a kind of destiny." "What? Oh, nothing." "All right, you should go." As I lowered my head to leave, a voice called out from behind, "Don't come back here." I turned around, but Nightwalk Hall had vanished without a trace. I looked up at the sky. The sun was high overhead. I decided to head straight to the place he'd told me about, the residence. After listening to my story, Morris frowned, just as the Nightwalk Hall shopkeeper had said. He rested his chin on his hand, as if deep in thought. After a moment, he reluctantly said, "The letter." He snatched the letter from me, tore it open roughly, and took out the paper. After silently reading it, he tore it to shreds and threw it at his feet. "Damn it, I should have tossed it away right from the start." "Just wait," he snapped, then rose and disappeared into the darkness of the living room. I sat by the door, waiting for him to return. Sunlight rested against my back, but he had strictly warned me not to enter the house, no matter what happened. The sound of cicadas in the distance was interspersed with the occasional mournful cry. I decided to ignore it. The cries continued, but I didn't glance in that direction. How much time had passed? Eventually, he returned with impatient steps from the shadows and tossed something into the sunlight towards me. I picked it up. It was a key. The intricate design on the key shaft was mesmerizing. "Go to the theater by the lake, and don't come back." He stood leaning against a pillar, arms crossed. In the shadows, his gloomy face was chilling. "But I need to return the key." "No need. If you don't want it, throw it in the lake." I should have thrown it away long ago. It infuriates me. Sigh. To the land of the infinite. He slammed the door shut. I bowed, then quickly bundled the cloak against my chest. As I left the residence with the key in hand, I seemed to see a strange-looking fish leaping from the pond in the garden. It jumped up, but I didn't dare take a closer look. I couldn't see it clearly. I ran along the path through the bamboo grove, reminding myself not to look back. Following the path by Lake Kono, the theater stood among the trees at the hilltop. At a glance, I could tell. It was modeled after the Imperial Theater, in a Renaissance style. It was an extremely old building. The white facade was bathed in the twilight glow, creating a solemn and somber atmosphere. The main gate was tightly shut, with a closed-today sign hanging on it. I took out the key, but the lock looked brand new. I tried it, but it didn't work. As I stood there, unsure, I heard a sound nearby. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw a black cat blending into the night. It was watching me from the shadow of a pillar. The cat flicked its long tail and moved toward the side of the building. I followed it to the right side of the theater, where inconspicuously there was an old-fashioned double-panel sliding door. A sturdy lock hung on the door, sealing it tightly. As soon as I inserted the key, the lock turned eagerly and opened. The door creaked open to both sides, and the lights in the hallway began to turn on one by one, as if welcoming my arrival. This led directly backstage, probably an old loading and unloading area. The scale and history of this theater were unlike any I had ever stepped into before. The marble columns, the carved balustrades on the stairways, radiated a deep sense of historical significance. Then, a soft singing voice floated through the air. It was a song, a haunting, captivating soprano. "Isn't the theater closed today? Is someone practicing?" I peeked from the side of the stage and saw that the audience seats were full, everyone staring intently forward, as if they were about to devour the entire stage. Under the spotlight stood a singer dressed in black. She was passionately singing a song of vengeance, the Queen of the Night from the Magic Emperor. They say only a few people in the world can sing this ultimate aria, and here she was, belting it out before my eyes, her powerful voice striking my heart. Flutes, oboes, horns, trumpets, and the string ensemble played melodies that harmonized with her voice, resonating deeply with the audience. It created a profound connection. Only through the painstaking efforts of a true genius could this kind of artistry be achieved. I understood. This is the pinnacle of the stage we all aspire to. As the song ended, the applause was thunderous. I hugged the cloak to my chest and clapped fervently, joining the roaring cheers. Looking closely, I noticed that the audience was dressed in an old-fashioned style. Their hairstyles, clothes, and demeanor were unlike anything seen today. My mind was still buzzing from the performance, but I immediately understood what was before me. This is a stage from the past, a memory of this theater. Suddenly, the singer turned around and saw me on the stage. She was so beautiful, radiant, and captivating. Though she was long gone, I didn't feel any fear. On the contrary, tears streamed down my face. Suppressing my racing heart, I walked toward her, I solemnly handed her the cloak. My great-grandmother always remembered you. She smiled faintly, neither fully smiling nor crying, and quietly accepted the cloak. She gently unfolded it, its colors as vibrant as ever. Her noble and proud demeanor captivated my heart. The curtain quietly fell. Soon, everything went dark before my eyes. I stood alone at the center of the stage. The audience had vanished. She and the cloak had disappeared as well. I was back, standing in the theater of the present. I wiped my tears and made my way back in the dark, through the corridor, locking the door as I left. Looking up at the white theater in the twilight, a cool breeze brushed through my hair. I closed my eyes, and it felt as if I could still hear the applause. I raised my gaze to the sky and stepped back onto the cobblestone path. One day, I will stand on the stage of this theater. As long as I hold on to my dream, I know I can achieve it. Turning my back to the door, I embarked on the path I had chosen. The setting sun bathed the landscape below, shining more brilliantly than ever.